This episode of the Naperville Moms Network is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, the Downtown Naperville Alliance. Be in the mix.
Welcome back to the Naperville Moms Network. We discussed babysitting jobs for our teens in our last segment, but what about summer job opportunities? As the weather warms up, high school and college students start looking for a great summer opportunity. I know for my boys, they've been working part-time at my ex-husband's office for about 2 years now, and it's been really, really great for them to get their feet wet and in a job opportunity, have some money of their own, learn how to kind of balance that and budget that. But I know for many organizations and many businesses, they ramp up in the summer because they're busier, people are out. I mean, we just, sometimes these winters in here in Chicago are like so cold and so, people just kind of want to bundle up and stay inside. And I know that many of my friends' kids are all of a sudden scrambling, like, oh my goodness, summer's coming up, and trying to figure out the best way for kids to go about looking for those opportunities because it can be challenging to find.
Right.
I know when we used to look for employees, kind of way back when faxes came in, if we put out a job opportunity, we would get 100 faxes come in. And I was busy, I never read through all of them. So I always suggested for people that when they're looking for a job, in the summertime, to go into the place with their resume, because the people that came into my practice looking polished and with their resume were the people that I actually, let me pull yours from the pile. Right. Didn't necessarily mean they were the absolute best fit, but sometimes just being there, being present really helps, because today it's all online. So these businesses are getting however many applicants, and it's really hard to go through all of them as a busy business owner or a manager.
Well, and I think it's great, that whole idea of them coming in and presenting themselves, because again, not only are the applications all online, but our kids are living in a world online, and they sometimes forget how to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody and allowing them to come in and actually say, hey, I can look you in the eye, I can shake your hand, I can be somebody that can be part of this team, and not just somebody that can, be really great at Snapchat or texting you. And I really, with my kids, it was always the thing, go in there and ask for an application, or go in there and don't just go online. And I also think a good one is to go where your kids already are. Like my son's summer job has always been doing lacrosse camps for little kids, because he played lacrosse. So he went to the club that he was in and said, hey, are you guys, but he was proactive in that. Hey, I would love to take on, coaching or helping little kids, and that's where he found a fit doing something he loves.
Nicholas, my younger son, he loves his martial arts class, and so we reached out to the owner and just said, hey, if at any point you're going to have job opportunities, Nick would love to do it. And so he's 15, he's going to get a work permit through school. We're trying to navigate, what does that look like? Where do we go to get that? But he's going to be able to start, and they're going to train him as an assistant. And he's like, I get to get paid to do martial arts. I mean, it blows his mind, right?
That's exactly what.
And so he's, he's really excited about that possibility. And for my older son, talk about look you in the eye. The manager of Houlihan's, who I've known for years because he used to be the manager at Luigi's, he came up to me one day. He's like, how old's your oldest son? And I said, he's 15. He's like, as soon as he turns 16, he has a job here. He's like, I've seen him multiple times. He looks me in the eye, he shakes my hand, and he's like, many kids come in and they can't even hold a conversation. So I think helping our teens learn those communication skills and make sure they are doing that with adults is important as well.
And that's something that's never going to go out of style.
I know, never.
Because I'm thinking of my husband even, and when he graduated college and got into a competitive credit training class, and he said, I don't think my grades got me there. My school didn't get me there. What got me there was me, even after a rough night before, setting my alarm, walking in and personally handing them my resume and having a conversation with me. He said, that is what got me that job. And that's 20 years ago, you know?
Yep,
And it's the
you're
same
right.
today.
It's universal.
And 20 years from now, you're going to still have to have those same skills.
I think that's the biggest thing for our kids nowadays, those people skills, those personal skills, and more importantly, the work ethic. Working for someone, being on time, being responsible. I think the transition then, when they do become adults and start full-time work, it's going to be more seamless. Because that's working on the corporate side, that's one of the things I noticed a lot of the younger kids graduating and coming off college, some of them have never had really job experience, and that transition is harder for them. How to communicate with peers, with superiors, and keeping them, communicated on projects they're working. So it's all the soft skills you're not going to get in school. And also the daunting task of these kids going into college, just having some exposure to some of the areas they're thinking they're interested. It sounds great on book, but if you actually can intern or job shadow and really know what that field looks like, I think prepares them better to make those educated guesses. Am I going into the right profession?
Right.
Yep, I think what Patty said about kind of using connections as well, right?
Right.
Go to the places you're already at. Ask, are there opportunities, especially for the summer as kids have a little more free time, or doing the babysitting that we were just talking about last segment, right? There's lots of opportunities for that, or cutting the lawn, or all those home services that sometimes people want to take off their plates when they're trying to enjoy a little bit more of a break for the summer.
And I will say, as parents, when your kids are going out into the job force, even in the summer, I do think letting them do it. Like, don't call your friends. Like, I'm not going to call, Dr. Kathy and say, hey, how can my son come work for you? That's not it. My son that's in college needed to be connected to somebody in a nonprofit. And I connected him by saying, this is a person I know. This is his contact information. And I let the person know, my son may reach out to you. But that was the end.
Right.
That was the end of that. And it was up to my son to make that decision to call and set up the meeting and do that. Because I think so many times, like, okay, my kid needs a summer job, I'm going to call somebody I know that has a business. And that's easy to do, but it goes back to what we were just talking about with our kids learning the skills that never go out of style. Those are the things that I think we have to let them, this has to be something they proactively do.
And I just read the other day, it was a shocking percentage, 72 or something % of parents still make the doctor appointments for their 18 plus. What? And it was funny because I had read that article, and then 5 minutes later my daughter said, oh, I'm supposed to bring in X, Y, and Z for school today. And I said, thank you. And I made a bigger deal. She goes, okay. And I said, well, thank you for remembering that. In the future, she's 7. I really need you to remember everything, because mommy takes care of a lot of different things. You need to take care of yourself. Okay, so I need to bring in that book. But it starts even younger, and little by little, just giving them that responsibility of them, just for themselves, that ownership.
Right. Well, and on the flip side, when you have a job already, my son was sick one time, and then he got hurt one time. I'm like, okay, call your manager. Right.
Yes.
Go in and, hey, we're going to go to the doctor. Here's the doctor's note. Go on in and give it to them, as opposed to me taking care of it, which is a common thread of what we're talking about, it seems like.
Teaching them those life skills. How do you handle that situation? And in the community we live, our kids are provided for really well. So it's not a financial means necessary for a summer job, but even then, I think it's those life skills and experiences that we as parents should push our teens to take those summer jobs.
And everyone has different financial situations, right? I mean, I know a lot of people that live even in Naperville that are single parents, that the kids really do need to help contribute in some way and take a little bit of stress off that parent. We're very fortunate, but there are also those skills that, like, hey, you're like 16, you're 17, like you're going to be launching into an adulthood situation. So if we can get you set on some job skills now and having some of those opportunities, then when you're out and you're trying to get your first real job, you can go back in your resume and say, oh, these are the different things that I've done. But then you also have kids that are just completely packed with things, and it's really not available for them to do it. And then maybe you find some things at home, like, hey, there's a project that I need done, right, for your daughter or something like that. If she's busy with dance and things that she has going on, providing opportunities for a little bit of that experience, I think, is nice as well.
Well, and go back to the babysitting or go back to the lawn mowing, like those tiny little neighborhood jobs that even if you are a kid who is completely packed, you could still be figuring that out and navigating those littler jobs that are closer to home.
One time a week or something, doing something. Yep. No, I totally agree. Totally agree. What do you think with your kids? I mean, as they kind of grow up, what do you think you can do now that can set them up in the future for having some of those good accountability skills?
More than I'm doing now.
That's honest. Thank you.
Because at their age, it's chores. It's helping around the house. And being the type of person that I am, I like, things aren't done the way that you really want them to, so you just end up doing them yourself. My son actually, he's only 4, but he helps so much. Really? I mean, he literally will be proactive, realize we have kids coming over for a meeting or something, and clean up without even having to.
Yeah, that's good.
It's really
so he's already set.
Don't start praising me. The older one is not that way, and I've raised them the same. So sometimes one needs a little bit more of a push and shove. So I think it's the household. And we've talked about this before also, just contributing to the house. Right. We all live here. We all are a family. How are you going to help? Because I think my daughter always thinks ahead. She thinks of college. She thinks of work. But what about those steps beforehand? Really, hon? You're going to do this? Because right now you won't even clean, take one item of clothing and put it in the hamper.
One of my friends came over for dinner the other night, and I looked at Nick, and I'm like, hey, bud, can you go do X, Y, or Z? And he's like, sure, Mom. And she looked at me, she goes, is that it? Is that all you have to do to get him to go? And I was like, well, I kind of lost it on them at one time. It was probably 3 years ago, and I had a long day, and I came home, and I asked them, I don't know, to each do one row of the dishwasher or something. And they were like, oh, I didn't, something. And I just, it's not my proudest moment, but they've been really good ever since, so.
It worked.
Well, I try to say things too, like, someone's coming over. How do you want your room to look? Is this how if this is how you want your room to look, then I would be embarrassed if I were you. But if you're not,
hoping for the right answer.
Helping your kids learn a good work ethic, responsibility, and how to manage their money is a great skill to pass on. Happy job hunting for your kids. Thanks for watching the Naperville Moms Network. Remember, you're always invited. Thank you.
This episode of the Naperville Moms Network is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, the Downtown Naperville Alliance. Be in the mix.